So when our ancient ancestors would look up at the sky at night, they wouldn't just see stars. They'd see a bear. They'd see a warrior. They'd say, look, you can see his belt. They'd see a ice cream scoop, or what we call the Big Dipper. And that is visual storytelling. It's very much close to the core of what we do as humans. And that's what filmmakers do, is telling a story in pictures. That's what I do. I'm a filmmaker. So when the Lumiere brothers, around the beginning of the 20th century, figured out that you could take a sequence of images and project them to create the illusion of motion, they really discovered the magic that's at the key of what we're talking about here. And I find it amazing to think about the fact that the film industry is only about 100 years old because of the revolutions that have happened in that process. You know, one of the first big ones is obviously the addition of sound. But when they found that you could create what we call moving pictures or movies, that's really the magic. So the first big revolution in filmmaking was to add sound. And adding sound adds depth, it adds dimension. I think everyone here knows that the music you play under a piece of video changes the meaning of it. So in 1927, when an actor named Al Jolson opened his mouth in a movie called The Jazz Singer, and a song came out, audiences lost their minds. This not only revolutionized the way movies are made and displayed, but it also changed the industry. A lot of actors lost their jobs because a lot of them had thick accents or thin, reedy voices, or let's be honest, basically couldn't act beyond basic pantomime. The next seismic shift in film was when technology in film allowed Dorothy to walk from a black and white, sepia-toned Kansas to Technicolor flower fields in Oz. You know, the advent of color really changed the way that we saw the world around us. And then I think the biggest shift, arguably, is the movement from analog to digital. And this is less perceptible to audiences, but what it really basically did was to democratize and flatten the process of filmmaking, which gave the access to tools of filmmaking to basically anyone who wanted it. You know, this meant that you could now edit video on computers. Now, prior to that, you'd take long spools of film and cut it with a blade and scotch tape it together. And I know this sounds barbaric, but that's actually how films were edited prior to that. You know, with the advent of digital, you're now editing on computers. And the rapid speed of Moore's Law means that this is going to continue to get faster and cheaper. One of the questions I get asked most often by organizations, associations, and businesses is why video? Why do I need video? And my answer always starts with a data point, and it's this. Last year, according to Forbes magazine, 82% of internet traffic was video. So that's where your audience is. And I encourage people to think in terms of audience more than customer or client or potential buyer. Because the relationship with an audience is different, isn't it? We're giving them something of value, not just trying to drive them to a conversion screen. And I'm going to say something here traditional marketers don't always like to hear, which is that no one loves being sold to. No one's clicking on bleach ads on purpose. Nothing against bleach. Now I'm going to tell you a secret about me. I love TV commercials. I love the 30-second format in which to tell a story. Because within that confine, that construct, you've got to introduce yourself and your product or service. You've got to explain why you're relevant to the viewer. And then, with the good ones, you need a clever way out, right? Because endings are hard. Ask any comedian. I worked on a commercial for an athletic shoe company that had an $11 million budget. Now, why, you're probably asking, would a shoe company put $11 million on a 30-second ad? And the answer is, of course, because they have one chance to make a first impression. And this ad, I love this ad. It's a work of art. There's no dialogue in it. There's no talking. We see a famous athlete, and he's walking down a stadium hall, and we could see the team name on the hallway, and you could hear the sound of a crowd, kind of muffled. And then he's thinking back, and all of a sudden, we see him walking down the streets that he grew up on in a very rough section of Baltimore. We shot this over 5 nights in Baltimore. And he's seeing significant people from his career. He sees coaches, he sees mentors, he sees other players. He looks down an alley, he sees some kids shooting hoop. And then we're back in the present day. And he's walking out into the arena. The crowd is cheering. You see a light storm of flash bulbs, and then I think they showed the shoe. But here's what this commercial did not do. This commercial did not say, we make great shoes and you should buy them. Because really good filmic video, motion picture, movies, they do that thing that Aristotle talks about. Aristotle said, don't try to change a man's mind. Reach for his heart. And that's what really good film does, doesn't it? It connects with us emotionally. So I want to invite you to try something. Next time you're feeling good, you have a few minutes, take that revolutionary device that's in your pocket that we all have. We all have a high-definition video camera in our pocket. And we probably have ways to edit video on that same device. And if not, you have it on your computer. Take that camera and turn it on yourself. And tell one of those stories that you've been telling forever. You know the ones. We all have our core stories, don't we? And then go back and more than look at that, because you know what you look like. Listen to it and see if there's a piece of music that would add depth, add dimension to that. And then think about if there's some B-roll, if there's some cutaways, maybe a shot of the street you grew up on, or of your cats on a windowsill, or maybe even your kids playing. Or better yet, tell your kids this Thanksgiving to go ask Grandma to tell them a story. Maybe about when Dad was a little boy. And do the same thing. Edit that, put it up on YouTube, send the link to everybody you know. And pay attention to the responses you get. And I think you'll see that it really is magic. Thank you.